Welcome to this walkthrough of Auto Email. Auto Email allows you to tailor the entire email experience for sales and purchase documents. All emails will go out automatically or within one click, with all the details that you define in advance. We have a lot to go through, so let's get started. Auto Email is using the built-in email accounts functionality that is standard in Business Central. So let's take a look at the email accounts. As you can see, I've already set up two. One is the current user, which means the user that is currently logged in. And I can see that the current user will automatically send out sales quotes and sales orders. Whereas Simprest Accounting, which is a shared account, will send out all these other ones. Notice that the default option here means that any other document, actually, I don't have to set up these email scenarios specifically, because the default account will send out any document that is not listed under the email scenarios. After the email account has been set up, we need to make sure that the job queues that are created for auto email, they are running. So we'll search for job queue. We have four different job queue entries here. One is called the send email job queue, which is the most important one, is the one that actually sends out the emails. We have one that sends out special documents. We have a log monitor that will monitor the auto email log that we'll get back to if there are issues with that. And finally, we have a job queue monitor that will monitor and send out emails if the send email job queue is not running for some reason. Let's say it goes into an error state. Someone can then get an email, and that is something that you would have to set this particular job queue monitor to ready. Let's try out sending some emails to some customers. What I've done here is that I put the system in test mode. So we're in test mode, and all the emails will go to me. So the other thing is that the job queue entry send emails, it's not sending, it's not running right now. So it's not sending out emails yet. What we will do, we'll take a look at the log, and then at the end, I'll just start the job queue so that it can process those emails. So let's go to a customer here. I'm going to go to Alpine Ski House, and I can see that they have a past due balance here. So what I want to do is I want to email them a collection, and I click here, and you see the little pop-up that comes. This is the half a second where it shows that something actually happened. It's that little dialogue that tells us that we actually clicked on the action. We could also send the auto email the open sales. It's kind of the same thing. So the collection is an email with a statement and all the past due documents. And open sales is a statement with all past due and non-past due documents. So if I go here, I can go to the log. I go to the log here. And I can see it made two entries. One an open statement and one a collection. So let's go to the open statement or open sales here. And you can see it's filled out who is the customer, created the email from, email to, and it merged the merge fields into body text and subject here, and who created it, and if it's completed, or if there's an error. Obviously there's no error because it's just created. So that's kind of an example, or a couple of examples here with how we can send something out real quick. So let's say they have an ongoing sales course. I see that they have one, and I want to email it. So when I do this, it works a little bit differently. And the reason why it works a little bit differently is because we've said that quotes are going out with the current user. And so if we are having quotes going out with the current user, we will have to send it immediately because the current user is the active user in the system at the time where we're sending the quote, and so we need to send it immediately. So the job queue is actually not processing this. This is actually sent immediately. So let's take a look at how that has been set up. So if I look at the templates, and I look at the email templates here, and I go to the quote, I can see here we actually have the email from user. And the reason why we have email from user here is because on the email accounts, we have it set up so that the current user will send out sales quotes and sales orders. So in that case, we will need to send it immediately because the current user is logged in, and we can't wait until the job queue runs and the current user is not logged in. I mean, that's not going to work. So that's why we send it out immediately if it has this email from user and it is sent from current user. All right, so let's say, so orders should go out the same way. So I can email orders. As you can see, it says email, auto email, order, or orders. So if you have several orders here, you can actually mark all the ones you want and just say auto email orders, and it will email them all. Right. So let's go to the log and actually see the auto email log. And so if I look at it now, I can see that sales order, sales quote was sent with the current user, and they were actually emailed. You can see there, and they are completed, right? So they're emailed and completed immediately. They are still in the log. So if I run the log, it will actually process those two that are not emailed yet. And so I can go and I can start the job queue and it will run it, or I can actually process all emails. This process all emails is essentially the same as the job queue. It will run whatever the job queue is running, but I can force it manually. So I'll just do that. And so a non-completed in the log, and you'll see now, just to show you that what happens. So it's actually creating all these different documents that like this, the statement and the supporting documents, and now it's done with them, and you can see now everything has been emailed. And so the job queue would simply have done that for us if I didn't do it manually here. So remember, this process all emails is just for testing. You don't want to use it for production unless you don't want to have the job queue on and you just want to review the log before you send them. We have customers that does that, and so that's perfectly fine. You would then just never have the job queue running, and you can then just process all emails as a manual process. Let's say that some of these entries here, I don't know, something didn't work, or you want to check if there was an error or something, you can actually reset the log entry, and resetting the log entry will make it ready to email again. So now it goes back to created, the date is updated and everything, and then date and time is updated. Now I can process it again, and so I process it, and you'll see that now it's emailed, right? So there's a way to reopen entries in here if you want to. Definitely something that a super user may need to know and how to handle it. You can also get to a lot of these places, a lot of these features from different places here. So if I look at I'm looking at the customer ledger entry for Alpine, and I see that this particular invoice, you can see it's still open. So I can kind of point to it, and I can email a short paid notice. It essentially just sends the invoice again, but the text is different. It's using a different template, so the template could say, hey, you didn't pay this, please pay as soon as possible, or maybe you short paid it, or so that's a pretty neat feature. Another feature that we have here is the collection is still available here. So if I click on the collection, it's the same as clicking on the customer. It's just that we put it here also because you may want to say, oh, they have too many open entries, or I just want to be able to send the collection instead of going back to the customer. We can just go and click auto email collection, and off it goes. If we go to posted sales invoices here, and here I can click a couple of invoices, and I can email invoices. And here we actually come up with a little notice that you are about to email 3 invoices, and now, so that was easy to send those. If they say, hey, can I just get these 3 invoices or whatever, you can mark them up and then they send them out. And we could also do it with short paid notices where you mark them and they would just go out. If I go to a particular invoice, you obviously have the option of auto emailing it, and if it's past due, it's gonna, or not past due, but it's short paid or not paid, you can click this, but I think it's going to give me an issue here. It says that the remaining issue amount is 0, meaning that it's not short paid or it's not unpaid, it's simply paid out, so we don't want to, so you get a little error there when you try and do things like that. Let's take a look at the customer and see the setup for auto email. So there's a section here that's called auto email, and here you would set up everything related to auto email for the customer. So auto email statements basically means that it's part of the automatic statement functionality that exists in auto email, and so if you turn that on, they will automatically start getting statements according to the setup. Here you would have the email to, the CC email to, and BCC email to. We also have auto email tos, and we call them like that because it's actually possible to create document type specific email to and CC email, BCC email. So here we could say, well, for sales invoices, it's going to be different. The email tos are going to be different, so you just put them in here. And then for maybe for short paid, we want to send it to someone else, right? So this is how you handle it, document specific. And I'm just going to delete these again here, but or else it's just going to default back to what's here. If this is also empty and you don't have any auto email tos, it will send it to the email address up here. And if this one is empty also, it's going to give an error, right? If we don't have any emails to send to, it's not going to be possible to send an email. The auto email template group is where you would set up specific email templates for this particular customer. So you can have, so this email template group is a group of templates that are used for certain customers, and in this case, if I turned it on here with large, it would mean that they have a different email experience than others where they don't have an email template group or where they have a different one. We also have the option here to default in, so when we default in auto email, do not auto email invoice credit memo shipment. If this is turned on, then when the documents are being posted, they will not automatically send out, even though it's supposed to be that, but you have turned it off for this particular customer. This can be overwritten at the time before the invoice is posted. So the order, you can go and say, well, I want to on this particular invoice or this particular order, I want to invoice it, right? But it will default to do not auto email invoice now, and it goes also for the shipment on an order, right? If you turn this on also, that you do not want to email the shipment, it will, when you create an order and you try to invoice and ship it, it will not send them out. Auto email is set up on the auto email setup page. First option here is the emailing. It's a simple turn on and off. You enable it and it runs, and it disable it, it doesn't run. The email sent message delay is used when a user is clicking an action to send out an email. We will display a dialog box showing that something went on, right? Something happened. And so in this case, we've selected it's half a second. It's 500 milliseconds. If you put it to 0, the user is going to get a dialog box with an OK button instead, and they would have to click OK. But we like to have this turned on, so you click less. Email body, you have the possibility to use HTML or just plain text. If you use HTML, you would have to do the HTML in an external HTML editor, and then you copy and paste it into the template, and we'll take a look at the templates a little bit later. Test mode is a great way to test the system. In this case, the entire system is in test mode. There's also an option to have the system not in test mode, and then you would just have a test mode on the templates. For instance, if you are making changes to, let's say, the invoice template, then you can put that in test mode only. We'll take a look at that also when we get to the templates. The test mode to email is the email address that I'm sending all my every single email that goes out of the system goes to the test mode to email. The emails are also marked with a test in the subject, so that you know that it's in test mode. Email address verification, we will actually verify that the email itself is correct. Not that it's correct, but at least the format is correct. So we check that there's an @ sign, there's a period after the @ sign, and then something after the period, etc., etc. Illegal characters will be checked, and you will get errors in the email log, and the user will get an email back. In case you have this turned on, so send email errors to sender, then if there's a problem either with the address verification or any other problem, the email sender will get a message back. One of the reasons auto email is called auto email is because of automations. We have a lot of different automations that can be enabled inside the system, and they are set up under automations. For instance, we can email invoices, credit memos, and shipments, including prepayment invoices and credit memos when posting. It's just a matter of turning these on, and the system will automatically do it without even the user knowing it or having to deal with it. We can also email reminders when issuing and finance charge memos when issuing. We also have where you can send out some documents upon release, like sales quotes, sales orders, sales return orders, and purchase orders. And we also have when a sales order is created from a quote, it will email the sales order. Finally, we have automatic statements that can be turned on, and in this case it is turned on, and there is a setting a little below that we will have to set up to make this happen. When statements are being sent out from auto email, the user is not prompted for setting up any options before the statement goes out. That happens inside of the auto email setup under statement options. And this is where you would set up the options for statements going out automatically or when the user just click email statement. We have two different statement reports, one that is a black and white report, and then that one that is a color the report. And the options for these two reports are given here, and we can just change them here if we want to send them out differently. The automatic statement option is a different option, and it relates to this particular setting that is called send automatic statement. So if this one is turned on, this down here needs to be filled out. And in this case, we have to determine what kind of statement option we want, if we want open balance or past due balances on there. The statement after send statements after time is the time where we will start sending it. So we're not sending it in the middle of the night at, after midnight, where users are not online. We will can we specify a date. If you don't specify anything here, it will just send it after midnight. The statement schedule, we can have several schedules, and so we'll take a look at this. In this case here, I've set up 2 schedules per month, which will send it on the 1st of the month and the 15th of the month. And there's the recurring interval, so it will say, okay, so 12/1/22, after 1 month, which would be 1/1/23, it will send statements again. And then after 12/15/22, 1 month after that, it will send statements again, and it will then update the last schedule run automatically. So this allows you to have you can send several statements every month. Just specify the dates you want them to go out. Auto email is capable of consolidating emails. Instead of sending out 5 different invoices during the day at 5 different emails, it will do one consolidated email at the end of the day or in the beginning of the next day. And you will set that up under consolidation options. Here's the date interval, the recurring interval. So it is actually doing here in every day. The last day was 12/6/2022, so it's going to be 12/7 next time. And the consolidation email will be sent out after 9 a.m. But you could have it at the end of the day instead if you wanted to have it like that. It's possible to monitor if some of the job queues are not performing correctly or there's a problem with the auto email log, and they are set up under monitoring. Here we can set up a log monitoring email, and every time there's a problem with a log entry, like it could be the email was missing or the email account is not correct or something, you can have an email, you can specify email addresses here that will get an email notification that there's a problem with the log, and so that they know that they can go into the log and see if there's a problem, what kind of problem they're dealing with. The job queue monitoring email is that is the send email job queue entry. If it's not sending out emails, you would probably want someone to know, and you can then specify email addresses here that will get an email when there's a problem with the job queue. Finally, we have what's called a logger email address. This is actually an email addresses that will get a copy of all emails going out of the system. So they're essentially blind copied on all emails. If you do not specify any emails in any of these boxes here, then nothing will happen. Finally, we have the licensing setup. This will display what kind of license that is currently entered into the system. If you have the expiration date, if it's a trial period license, what is the licensed company, if it's active, and how many days left on the subscription. If you want to load a license, it happens under actions here, subscription, and you can activate one subscription here for this particular company, or you can activate multiple subscriptions, if you want to load a license file that we actually send to you. But let's just take the simple one. If you want to activate a subscription here, it comes up with this. And this is the company name that is used in this particular company. I know it sounds weird that I have to tell you this, but it is actually possible to have a display company and also a company name. So basically you would take what I just did here and then copy it and then send it to us, and we will give you an activation code back that you would paste in here, and then you would click activate subscription, and it will activate the subscription inside this particular company. Auto email comes with a number of email templates. You can get to them by searching for email templates, or from the setup screen here, clicking email templates. Let's take a look at the sales invoice template and see what kind of options we have. Here we have the description, the document type. You have to pick the correct document type for the template. You need to have at least one default template. So this needs to be enabled for at least one of the sales invoice document type templates if you have more than one. The customer type is related in this case to the sales invoice, and are we sending it to the bill to customer or the sell to customer? Here's the report we're using. You just pick any sales invoice report that you like for this particular template. The email from user needs to be turned on, enabled, if we're sending it from the current user. That's how we handle the send from email address. So if you have current user set up for invoices, sales invoices, this needs to be enabled. Here we have the email subject and body text, and we have some merge fields here, %1, %2, % whatever number would be found up here under actions, and we have the merge fields. In this case, we can see we're actually getting the merge field 1 and 2 would be the sales invoice number and the bill to name, and that's how we address or merge these fields into the body text and the subject. The email address source is related to where do we get the email from. Do we get it from the master record, the emails that we are sending them to, right? So do we get it from the master record, which in this case is the customer, or do we do it get it from the document only, which would be the invoice, or do we do a combination of both, so that we're sending to both the ones that are sitting on the customer and the ones that are sitting on the invoice itself? Custom email settings is used to bring up a dialog box at the time you click email invoice, which means that it's not automatically just going to send it. It will actually come up and ask you what email, who do you want to send it to. It's coming up with the suggestions, and you can then make the changes, right? So it's something that will actually show a dialog box you have to go through every time for this particular template. So we don't want to turn this on for this demo. Then we have attachments. We can include item, resource, and GL attachments. And this is related to the sales invoice lines. So if you have lines with particular items, resources, or general ledger accounts, you can have attachments from those master records. Like you can have an invoice with some items on, and you want to send some additional information automatically because those items, maybe they have some hazardous material warnings, or it could be instructions how to assemble them, whatever it could be. And then you would just turn this on, and now item attachments that are marked specifically for auto email will be attached whenever the sales invoice has items with attachments, right? And so the same goes for resources and GL accounts. We have a test mode, just like we had it on the auto email setup, but the test mode here will only be for this particular template. So you can have you can test a particular template without having to turn it on for the entire system. You just do it for the template. Enable consolidations. That's back to if you have consolidation enabled, you can enable it for this particular template. And when you do that, you would have to specify the consolidation subject and text, just like you had over here. Now it's just going to use whatever is over here if you enable consolidation. There we also have the logger email address. You also had that on the auto email setup, but if you specify it here, it overrides what was on the auto email setup. And the logger email is where you blind copy all emails sent with this template type. You just simply get an email on all these invoices here. Finally, we have a delete entry log, a log entry formula. So the auto email log will, here in this case, it says -3 years, which means that we will delete everything that's older than 3 years from the log completely automatically. Auto email has a couple of special templates, and we'll take a look at them here. So the collection template is special because it is a feature. It's a feature that sits on the customer where you can send a collection email, and the collection email is a email with a statement and all the supporting documents attached, the ones that are past due. So it would be a statement report, and then all the past due invoices, credit memos, etc. will be attached to the email. And all they have to do is click the button on the customer and it goes out automatically. We also have the open sales, which is the same as the collection email, but we're also sending out invoices and credit memos that are not past due. It's just everything that's open will be sent out with a statement and all the supporting documents. Finally, we have what's called short paid template, and the short paid template is essentially just a way to send out an invoice that is past due or partially paid, right? So it could be that they didn't pay it or they short paid it, and so it will simply just send out an invoice again, but the text is going to be a little bit different. That's basically the difference. Let's take a closer look at the merge fields. So we go to the merge fields from an email template here. We'll see that there are these two merge fields. But let's see how we create a new one. So if I want to have a merge field here, I need to give it a number. It doesn't really matter what number you give it. It just has to be an integer. So I'll put number 3 here, and then I'll pick from, let me show you the full list here. So in order to understand how to pick these tables here, you need to understand that when we are on a sales invoice, it would be related to a customer and not a vendor, and would be related to the sales invoice itself. So the payment terms, if I go and say I want to get information from payment terms, that would mean the payment term that the invoice has, right? So if the payment term on the invoice is 30 days, the system will pull the payment terms 30 days, and then we have access to the fields on the payment terms. Similar, if in this case the customer would be the customer that is related to the sales invoice template, right? And remember that we had a customer type here as the bill to or the sell to on the template. So it will pick and get the customer for this particular invoice. And then we have access to all the fields on that customer. Company information is not related to anything except that it's company information. So when we pick someone like company information here, if I wanted to pick that, and I'll actually want to do that. So if I do this one, I can now pick and choose from this company information. So I could pick the name here, which means that now I have access as merge field number 3. That would be the company name of the current company. So another thing I could do here, I could pick the salesperson. And remember again, when I pick the salesperson here, it will be the salesperson that is on the sales invoice. And so if I go here and pick the salesperson, now I can actually get their name instead of just their code, because the code is on the invoice, but I want to get the name. One thing that will not work is if you do things like this. So if I say vendor here, and I pick the name of the vendor, well, then the vendor is really not on the sales invoice, right? So this will just be a merge field that would be ignored by the system. It's just going to return a blank all the time. If there's a problem, like the salesperson was not on the sales invoice, someone missed it and it's not on there, it will just return a blank. So that's kind of how the merge fields work. And then once we go back here, I can instead of go back here and say, we appreciate your business, best regards. And now instead of this, I can do %3. Actually, was it 4, 5? I mean, you get the idea. Let's take a look at the merge fields here. So it was actually 3. So I can put %3. And now I will have the company name come in here. And if someone changed the company name on company information, it will automatically happen here in the sales template when we merge the fields. So here I'm back in the auto email setup, and under our automations you'll notice that we have turned on that we email invoices when posting, and we also email prepayment invoices when posting. So some customers may say, well, we want a different email experience. We also want credit memos to be emailed when posted, or maybe they say we don't want email invoice the invoices being emailed to them. So if you'd like to set something like that up, you would have to define an email template group. And an email template group will kind of have the same information as you saw on the auto email setup screen, including what kind of templates that this particular group of customers would use. Right, so when you look at all these are actually the templates that are standard templates, but in the sales invoice template, there's actually another one that is non-standard. And so now I changed the email experience for this particular group. And also you can see that we also email shipments when posting, and we email reminders when issuing. And all we have to do after we've created this group is that we will assign it to the customer. So if I go to a customer and go down to the auto email section, I can go and click large here. And now this customer will use different templates and a different automation email experience. So let's take a look at some of the attachments that we have included in the product. So let's look at auto email attachments, and as you can see here, I've already created a couple of attachments for sales orders. So with all sales orders, we're sending terms and conditions out, and it's going to attach this. We can activate or inactivate it. If it's active, we can have a starting and ending date, and within those dates it will go out. Without outside of those dates, it won't. So we can have different documents, and these are always going to be sent out with these documents. So think of it like that: is these are permanent attachments that are going to go out as long as we're inside the date interval and that it's active. So when I email a sales order now, it's going to send out the terms and conditions also. We also have it for outgoing sales orders or for sales orders. So on a sales order, we can go and we can say, hey, I want to add an attachment to this particular one. So I go here and I say, okay, I want to add a special order attachment for this one, and it needs to be auto email. So now it's a specific attachment. This attachment only will go out with this particular order. So, but the other attachment, the terms and conditions, are going to go out with this order also, because this was defined on the other attachment. So those are kind of the two attachments that we have for documents. Then we have attachments for items, resources, and general ledger, and they all work the same, so I'm just going to show them items. So if I go here, I can see that this Athens desk, it has an attachment here. And it's the product sheet, and we want to auto email it out, so it's going to go out. But it only goes out for sales orders, sales quotes, and sales invoices, and sales credit memos for that matter, if the sales, let's say the sales order has this item on the sales order, right? So if this item is placed on a sales order, it will also send the attachment out. And the idea is this, right? So the customer wants to send out product sheets for certain items or all of the items. And so when you send out a sales order, a sales quote maybe, we want to send out product sheets also. So we can go in and specify that when we're sending out documents here in like a sales order or sales quote, we want to attach item attachments also if they exist on that particular document. And so if we go back to the templates, we can actually define on the template if we want these item attachments. And so if we go to the sales order, we can see it's actually not turned on. So I turn it on here now. Those this particular product sheet for the Athens desk will go out on sales orders. I actually think we set it up on the sales quotes. There it is. Let's see. No, we didn't. Like this. So that's how that works. And the same goes for resources and GL attachments. So the resources could be like, it would be a resume of employees if you want to send something out, or whatever it might be. It's something you would just turn on here, and then you would start doing the attachments, click that it goes out with order email, and out they will go automatically. Auto email also has a special feature called special attachments or special documents. It's something that is used to email documents that are not really related to anything else than the customer. So here we have auto email specialty email. So let's say that this particular customer wants to have a W9 from us. So we can go here and we can create here a W9 specialty here and say it's recurring every 1 year maybe. And we haven't sent it yet. So we want to send a W9 every year. And then we can just click here, send specialty document, and out it goes. And now it's been sent out. The recurring entry here is if there's a job queue you can start for specialty emails, and it will go through and see if there are some emails that needs to go out from, like we just sent one here, and so this one will go out now, and then in 1 year it's gonna run and send it out again. So it's just simple little feature here where you can add some special documents here, and it's just that easy. If you want to send a W9, you don't have to go and find it somewhere. You can have it out, and and you have it logged that you send it, and when you send it, And that's pretty much it.